Hello friends, welcome back. In this video, we shall look at a very interesting problem which a lot of students ask me about, which is that if I upload a sprite, how do I remove its background? Now, I'm naming this video as 6A because really this is an extension of our Scratch Learning Bytes lesson number 6, where we look at the different ways of adding sprites. And as if you can look at that video, you will see that one of the ways to add a sprite is to upload it. However, what you find is that many times when you upload a sprite, there is a background and it's a little bit hard to remove. So I thought I'll make a separate video to kind of clearly explain how we can remove this process, right? So let's just see how this whole thing works out. Let's say I have a new project and I do not, have the sprite that I'm looking for in Scratch, right? So which means that I cannot choose a sprite to get what I want. So instead I choose to go to the internet and find a sprite that will work for me, right? So for example, let's say I might go and search in Google, and I want this particular superhero, for example, right? So now if I want to save this, I can go and say save image as, and it will basically download this to my computer, and I'll just name it as say superhero, right? Let's say superhero. I'll just call it superhero, and I'll just say yes, replace this, right? Now the problem comes that when you bring this into Scratch, right? So yes, I've stored it, but let's say when I bring this superhero into Scratch, which means that if I go here and say upload a sprite, let's say I bring in the superhero, what you will find is that many times this superhero sprite will come with a background which is very painful to remove. So notice this superhero's costume is not just the superhero, but also this rectangle, which is quite hard to remove, right? Now, one thing you could try to do is that you can go into the costumes and you can try to sort of erase, let's say this part of the background, and you'll see that it sort of works, but it's very cumbersome. Notice it's a little bit, working, but you'll find that it's very, very difficult, very time taking. So it's, what we'll see in this video is a simpler and a lot more efficient method, right? So let's for now remove this superhero. We'll come back to this again, but the method that I'm going to tell you is, like I said, a lot more efficient, right? So let's say I go back to the superhero. This is the image I've already saved here. Now what I can do is that I can go to this website called photoscissors.com, right? Now this is something a student of mine told me. It's really nice, photoscissors.com. And what it does is that, so you can look at the URL from here, photoscissors.com, right? And like I said, remove image background, right? Now, how do I use this, right? So what I can do is that I can say upload an image and say I can choose a superhero, which is what I want to clean up, right? So, and I can say open. Once I do this, it takes a while. It takes you into the editor, and in fact, it gives you a sort of a cleaned up image, and all you have to really do is to say download this. Now, in most of the times, you will find that this downloaded image comes in your downloads folder. So which is what will happen to me. So if I go to my downloads folder, I'll see an image called superhero again. Yeah, that is this superhero. So I can just rename this as superhero cleaned up, because remember my other photo is already called superhero. So I'll say superhero clean up, let's say. And I'll also move this to the same folder as earlier, so it's easier for me, right? Now let's say I go to Scratch and I say I will upload this sprite, right? So I go and upload this sprite, the same superhero, but this time I'll use superhero cleanup, right? And what you will find is that magically the background has already been removed for you, and you can see that, so that these two are next to each other. This time the cat is not getting obscured. To further verify this, you can go into the costumes and you'll notice that this is all completely cleaned up, right? And this is actually really efficient method of doing this, right? So let's take one more example. Let's say I have, in the past I've searched for this car, and once again the car is here. If I bring it in, this car, notice, has this background, quite difficult to remove. But let's say I take it to the photo scissors, right? So once again I go back to the photoscissors.com here, right? And this time I say upload image, and I choose this car. I just say open, and once I open it, there's some things that happen in this. And now all I have to do is to say download, right? Now if I say download, a car.png appears in my downloads folder. So I'll go back and I see this car.png in my downloads folder. I can rename this to, let's say, once again, car cleaned up, I say clean up, and I'll move it also to my images for Scratch, so it's easier for me. And now so I can delete this particular car, and instead I can say upload the car cleanup. And you'll notice that this car will come out with no background whatsoever, right? So I hope this is useful. I think it's quite useful, and I hope you'll be able to use this method to get your images rid of the background, right? Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye.